Morning, Al Ingalls here at pressure-free.com. I believe we are live. If you're watching the show live, thank you so much. If you're on the replay, I'm glad you're here, taking a time to learn a little bit about pressure-free living. Topic today are behaviors. So in this series that I'm doing right now, we're lifting up the hood because things you may not even be aware of some of the behaviors that we exhibit uh, unless you've been videotaped. So I remember watching some old home movies of us, uh, our family, my sons, my husband, and there's this one video where I am clearly irritated, clearly irritated. And the words I say, the actions I do, like how my body's moving, I just look at it and cringe, like, wow, look at that. There was not a real reason why I needed to be in that state. And that got me thinking about, okay, so I wonder what precipitated before that would cause me to be in that state. Or was I kind of living in that state all the time and I wasn't aware of it? So I want to bring forward a quote by Steve Jobs about Steve Jobs. Well, it's his quote. And what it was his biographer, who's a friend of his, and others too, have asked him, "Why are you so mean?" And gosh, I have the exact quote right here. It's in my book. It's in this book here. But let me grab it real quick, exactly what he said. It was Isaacson who asked Jobs Hertzfeld's question, who was a friend of his, Andy Hertzfeld. Why are you so mean? This is who I am, and you can't expect me to be someone I'm not. This is who I am, and you can't expect me to be someone I'm not. So Jobs is one of the people that I talk about in my book. This is The Pressure-Free CEO, How the Stress Response Contributes to the Untimely Deaths of Leaders, and How You Can Gain Control to be more productive, mentally clear, and physically healthy. So in this book, I posit that first of all, the cancer that Steve Jobs had was of the endocrine cells of the pancreas, and that is highly susceptible to growing when an abundance of stress hormones hits those cells. So okay, this is who he is. I have a lot of people will say that to me, like, I'm a type A high achiever. This is just the way I am. I had one fellow say, I'm an Italian Jew. This is the way I am, right? And so we may think we're a certain way, and that's our authentic personality. And if we lift up the hood and take a look and see if that personality is being created by the release of stress hormones and that it's not our true self, I never would have thought any of this before 2010. But as I started working with clients, the first was a 17-year-old girl, and she goes, Mrs. Ingalls, thank you so much for helping me find the true me. And it brought me to tears because it made me realize that for me, that was the same thing. The stressed out us is not us. That's not our authentic us. That explains so much of the things about the difference between aggressive behavior and assertive behavior. Like you think you're being assertive, but if you've triggered the stress response, your body and your face, everything is exhibiting aggressive behavior because in fight or flight, we're going to push forward or we're going to pull back. We're going to ignore and shut down and not talk, or we're going to just freeze in place. So those will be the three top ways that we'll do things. And and so that's not your true self. That's you under the influence of these stress hormones. So that to me, just like, I can't even tell you the journey I started to go on, like really taking a look at behavior, my own behaviors, others' behaviors. And then I realized something that I think is quite profound. When we've triggered the fight or flight stress response, there'll be this extra need to justify and rationalize our behaviors. You might hear yourself say something like, I have every right to be angry here. I've told them to pick those socks up a zillion times. Or I told her a million times to take out the garbage right on Wednesdays, or whatever the thing is. We feel justified and rationalized in our upsetness, in our impatience. In Steve Jobs' case, he felt totally justified in being mean to total strangers. And yet he was a practicing Zen Buddhist. That's a little bit in conflict, I think. And so I think if we could lift up the hood for him and if he could see that he was constantly releasing these hormones. By the way, the people that I talk about in this book, they could access any healthcare in the world. They could access any sort of treatment in the world, anywhere. Money was no object for the people that I mentioned in this book. Time might have been an issue, but certainly access to trying any sort of treatments or anything. These are people that passed away before the age of 60. I think Anthony Bourdain was 61, but basically didn't make it to an average lifespan of an American. Most of them are American that I mentioned here. Some are European, some are Asian. That to me is fascinating. You could access anything, and yet what is causing their demise? I truly believe it is the release of stress hormones. It's not the stress. I mean, they are high achievers wanting to take on big roles and do this work, but it's the overreaction to things that's causing it. And certainly, being mean to people is an overreaction. And so you could take a look for yourself, like look at moments where you notice that you're overreacting. What are those emotions? What are you feeling? And maybe the root cause isn't the thing happening in that moment. You need to back up a little bit, like really back up, even a few hours, and notice, oh, it was when I was stuck in traffic on my way to work because there's snow issues. We're in a snowcopalypse right now in Michigan. Maybe that was the moment, but these hormones have an effect on you for hours. By the way, it's kind of sneaky. You may feel powerful from the adrenaline. You release that flood of hormones. It's adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine. So you're getting a hit in your bloodstream of your feel-good drug. Not just here, but in your bloodstream. You're getting this hit of dopamine along with adrenaline. That's why you'll hear the phrase adrenaline addict. Hello, my name is Al Ingalls, and I am an adrenaline addict. If I start getting on the adrenaline train, I like how powerful it makes me feel. And unknowing to me, I'll just keep triggering and triggering over the smallest detail, like, oh, this is out of place on my desk. Some small irritation, right? I get irritated, I overreact, and I create another flood of hormones. So honestly, I was like on my knees crying when I figured out that I had never been clean of these hormones back in 2010. Because at least once a day I felt angry, annoyed, mostly annoyed, anxious, afraid, ashamed, or I'd argue about something. It was mostly annoyance. Figuring that out was a game changer. So take a step back. If you have old home movies or if you have movies of yourself, like videos of yourself, take a look at your behavior, like notice what's going on. I coach even my local clients. I coach them on screen, on Zoom. And it's because a few years back, I was coaching an executive and they said to me, I love that you coach on Zoom because I get to see my face in real time reacting as I talk to you about issues that I'm dealing with. That was so cool. So sometimes I'll say to my clients, oh, freeze. I want you to see your face. Like, don't look at me. Look at your face right now. Look at your face. And they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I was like this, in this face, just talking about this one thing. Our faces send so many meta communication pieces to those whom we talk with. Our whole front of our body does, which is why so much of the early work I do with my clients is physical. It's physical tools, body tools, things you can do immediately. So I'm going to share one of those right now. It is about softening the front of your whole body. And so I want to credit my body coach, Leila Veronica, for teaching me some of this because it's amazing. I mean, I've always taught my clients about relaxing their abs, but this takes it an extra step. So I've taught this before. You've probably heard me if you watch me a lot, but it doesn't, it's interesting how you'll think you're sitting in a great frame, but just one little tweak can really change it. So step one is to open up your heart space. Pentwater, Michigan, if you've never been there, it's beautiful. I host retreats there. From your shoulders down through your ribs. Instead of pinching your shoulders back and down, like everybody tells you to have good posture, bring your shoulders back and down. Try instead to just go wide. Try to really take up more space this way, horizontally. We're in a society that tries to tighten us up, but if you expand your heart space, you actually get a little bit of a shape because we're like crunching up and we're like blocks. So open wide. And the moment you do that, you've really opened up your heart. Now, when you sit in this position, it can feel a little vulnerable because you did just open up your heart space, and we've all had a little heartache. We've all been hurt. So opening up and relaxing and opening and spreading your pecs in this whole area, that actually can feel a little vulnerable. Once you do it though, and I just had a client do this with someone in a conversation, it completely changed the trajectory of the conversation. Completely. That could have happened for Steve Jobs. If you watch him, he's so tight. His front of his body is so tight. I've watched videos of him and it's fascinating to me. But if you open wide, there's connection now. You energetically opened up your heart space. Second step, sit up a little bit, grab your butt, grab your glutes, pull them up and wide. So you're sitting on your hamstrings, on your leg bones, okay? So we're not supposed to sit on our butts. We're supposed to sit on our leg bones, and our glutes are supposed to support our lower back. Like really, that's why if you have a lot of back issues, just this one little switch and be gentle with yourself. Like nothing, you don't want anything hurting, but just get that butt rising a little bit. And it's also to propel us forward. So now you have a soft body, but that the other person you're communicating with is going to feel like, oh, that person's in action mode. There's energy. So rising glutes, you're on your hamstrings. Next, grab your thighs and turn your muscles in, your quad muscles in. So now you've really grounded yourself. So you're grounded and strong in the back, and now open in the front. Now relax your abs. And now the voice gets like, all of this gets less tense. Okay. Like, see how that is, there's no stringy lines and tight, like this is all super relaxed. I've been working on this for years now. And so this whole front of my body is so much softer. Whereas before I'd be in like, I'll try to do it with my neck. Like attack mode, right? We're doing this thing, but now as I execute, the power is more true empowerment. It's not force. So that's what people will start to feel from you. It's like you're really in community with them and really connected with them and talking with them rather than forcing your agenda, what your thoughts are. And entering into these kinds of behaviors. You're either going to ignore, go back, or you're going to go forward, or you may just stew and be irritated and not even speak about it. It doesn't matter. All of those emotions are clues that you've probably triggered the stress response. If there's something going on. I hope this is helpful. Like just getting into this more beautiful frame. There's so much more to the frame. I only gave you about half of it here. And I'm telling you, it's like a game changer when you can understand that your impatience, your less desirable behaviors probably are rooted in a release of stress response. They probably are, of a release of stress hormones. So if you can take a beat and just start to notice, that's not your real self. That's yourself under the influence of stress hormones. And when you can really step into discovering who you truly are, empowered from the inside, not forcing, not being mean like Steve Jobs. I mean, I wish what would happen if his brain was still here on the planet, right? All of the people that I mentioned in this book, I wonder that. I mean, Charlie Rose, CEO of McDonald's, two CEOs of McDonald's, two CEOs of Wendy's, so many people in amazing positions. Like you don't get there unless you've got a lot of gift and talent to lead people and make things happen. And think about the families that have lost these people in their 40s and 50s. So that's a bit of my mission, is to help leaders understand that they don't need to trigger the stress response to be great leaders. It's actually the opposite. And it can be sneaky. You might not think you're doing it. You might think you're a pretty calm executive, but let's lift up the hood and see if that's true. I wish you a great pressure-free day.